All right, so are you ready to dive into another YouTuber studio setup?
Always down for a good studio deep dive.
Today, we're taking a look at how Omar El-Takrori from Think Media gets that really polished look in his videos.
Think Media does put out such great quality content.
Exactly, and today's source is one of his videos where he walks us through his whole studio setup.
I'm excited to hear what gear he uses.
Same here, and he starts right off by highlighting the importance of good audio.
Doesn't he always, though? He's a big believer in audio quality.
Rightfully so. It can make or break your videos, and what I found really cool is he doesn't use some crazy expensive mic.
What mic does he use?
The DDD4 Mini.
Oh, that's a good one.
I know, right? And it's only around 40 or 50 bucks.
Which just goes to show you don't need to spend a fortune to get great audio.
Exactly. And you know what else I love about his setup? How he has the mic mounted on a boom arm.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
That keeps the setup looking so clean and professional.
Right. No mic in the shot, but it's still perfectly positioned, and it's all connected with a simple O cable to the camera.
No need for a complicated wireless setup.
Now for the camera, I know a lot of people are going to be excited about this one.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He uses the Sony ZV-E10.
Oh, that's a popular choice for YouTube.
For a good reason, too.
Tell me about it. 4K resolution, fantastic autofocus, perfect for those talking head videos.
And to make sure he can film for longer stretches, he uses a continuous power adapter.
Smart move.
No one wants to interrupt their flow because the battery died.
Definitely not.
Now for the lens, he's rocking the Sigma 16mm.
Another classic.
He even shared that his sweet spot for distance from the camera is about 30 inches.
About 2 arms lengths away.
Gives you a good sense of scale.
That 16mm gives a nice, slightly wider field of view, too.
Without distorting the image.
It's a popular choice for creating that friendly, approachable vibe.
And speaking of approachable, Omar has a great tip about using a wireless remote to control the recording.
That's actually a game changer for workflow efficiency.
I know, right?
You can start and stop recording remotely, mark good takes as you go.
Saves so much time in the editing process.
So smart.
And the cool thing is the Sony ZV-E10 isn't just for YouTube.
You're telling me.
He uses it for live streaming and video calls, too.
Just plug it right into your computer with the USB-C cable.
Talk about getting the most out of your gear.
Having one camera that can do it all is a huge plus.
When it comes to live streaming, he's a big fan of StreamYard.
StreamYard's great.
It really is. You can have multiple guests screen sharing all those professional-looking transitions.
And people often forget about the recording function.
You can record your live streams right within StreamYard.
So convenient. And Think Media actually has a connection to StreamYard, too.
Oh, yeah. Through their streamwiththink.com resource.
Shows how much thought they put into their entire workflow.
Now let's move on to his tripod.
The foundation of any good setup.
He uses a compact Manfrotto with a ball head mount.
Ball heads are so essential.
Especially for getting those perfectly level shots.
They give you so much control over the camera positioning.
And his tripod has a quick release system, too.
So you can detach the camera quickly if you need to.
Although this particular tripod might not be tall enough for standing shots.
It works perfectly for Omar's seated setup.
And now for the element that can make or break a video, lighting.
It's not just about the gear. Good lighting can elevate footage from any camera.
Omar gets it, and for his key light, he uses an Amaran 60D.
Nice.
He pairs that with a large lantern modifier to soften and diffuse the light.
Super flattering, especially for those close-up shots.
Of course, he uses a wireless remote to control it.
I love the convenience.
Adjust the intensity on the fly, no need to get up.
Makes a big difference.
And even something as simple as that background lamp in his shot.
Adds a subtle warmth to the scene.
It's all about the details.
It really is. And speaking of details, things are about to get really interesting.
Tell me more.
Omar has his secret sauce for creating more visually dynamic shots.
This is where I got really excited.
He adds a hair light and a simulated window effect.
So creative.
It shows he's not just lighting the scene, he's creating a mood.
Totally. Adding depth visual interest.
For the hair light, he uses a GVM panel light.
And get this, he sets it to a warm temperature to match the background lamp.
Oh, wow. Attention to detail.
I know, right? It creates such a cohesive look.
And for anyone who might not know, a hair light subtly illuminates the subject's hair.
It separates them from the background, adds a nice touch of dimension.
To suspend the lights, he uses this really unique system called Varipole.
I'd never seen anything like it before.
It lets you hang lights without using screws.
And he says it's more reliable in the long run.
That's good to know.
But wait, there's more.
I'm all ears.
For the fake window effect, he uses a GVM 100-watt cob light.
All right, so now we're getting into some fun technical terms.
Give me with him.
He uses a snoot to narrow the beam of light, and a gobo to create a pattern that mimics light coming through a window.
A snoot's basically like a cone that directs the light right.
That's it, and a gobo is like a stencil that shapes the light into a specific pattern.
So cool how he's essentially painting with light.
I love that analogy.
And of course, being the efficiency guru that he is, he controls both the hair light and the fake window with a wireless remote.
Everything within reach. Super streamlined.
I'm blown away by how much thought he's put into this setup.
It's really impressive how he combines technical know-how with that visual storytelling element.
He's not just throwing equipment at the problem, he's carefully selecting each element.
To enhance the viewer's experience.
Exactly. It's inspiring to see that you don't need a ton of expensive gear to make great videos.
You need to be thoughtful about your choices and how they all work together.
I'm already itching to go tweak my own setup.
That's the beauty of these deep dives. We get inspired to level up our own creative game, and we're just scratching the surface here.
I know, right? There's so much more to unpack.
In part 2, we're going to go beyond the gear and delve into how Omar's studio environment contributes to his creative process.
It's fascinating stuff, so make sure you tune in for part 2 of our deep dive into Omar El-Takrori's YouTube studio.
We'll be back with even more insights and inspiration.
All right, so we're back and ready to keep digging into Omar El-Takrori's YouTube studio.
I'm excited for this part.
Me too. We've covered his gear, but now I want to talk about something a bit more intangible.
You mean like the vibes?
Kind of. I'm talking about the environment of his studio.
Ah, I see what you mean.
How that space feeds into his creative process.
That's such an interesting concept.
It's something we often overlook, but our surroundings have a huge impact on how we feel and how we work.
I totally agree. I know I can't focus if my workspace is cluttered.
Same here. And when it comes to a studio environment, it's even more important.
It's a space that's specifically designed for creative work.
Exactly. So everything from the lighting and color to the organization.
Even something like having plants can make a difference.
So let's apply all of that to Omar's studio.
Let's see what we can learn from the environment he's created.
Well, from what we can see in the video, his studio has a very clean and minimalist aesthetic.
It's definitely well lit and organized.
Not a lot of visual clutter.
That kind of environment can really promote a sense of calm and focus.
Which is essential for creative work.
Totally. But it's not completely sterile either.
Right. He has some personal touches like that background lamp and some artwork on the wall.
That makes it feel more inviting and inspiring.
It's about striking that balance between functionality and personality.
Your workspace should feel like an extension of yourself.
And that can make you feel more motivated and creative when you're in that space.
It makes you wonder if building a dedicated studio is a creative act in itself.
You're essentially building a physical representation of your creative vision.
I love that idea. You're curating an environment that not only supports your work, but also reflects who you are as a creator.
Now, even for those of us who don't have a dedicated studio space,
There's still a powerful takeaway here.
you can create a designated creative zone, even if it's just a corner of a room.
It signals to your brain it's time to get into that creative mode.
Okay, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about organization.
Organization. Sounds a bit mundane.
I know, but it's incredibly important.
I'll give you that. Especially in a creative space.
And even though Omar doesn't explicitly talk about it in the video,
I have a feeling he has some serious organizational systems in place.
behind the scenes, yeah.
Absolutely. Behind every efficient creative workflow is a solid organizational system.
Makes sense if you think about it.
We're constantly searching for misplaced files or tangled cables.
Or that one piece of gear you can never find.
It's a huge disruption to your flow.
And it zaps your creative energy.
Totally. It's like trying to pick a gourmet meal in a chaotic kitchen.
So what are some practical tips for keeping a studio space organized?
Well, it all starts with decluttering.
Get rid of anything you don't absolutely need.
Then create designated storage spaces for your equipment, cables, props.
Anything you use regularly.
And don't forget labeling.
Knowing exactly where everything is saves so much time and stress.
I'm also a huge advocate for cable management.
Tangled cords are the worst.
They're an eyesore, a safety hazard, and a huge time suck.
You can lose hours of your life to battling cable monsters.
There's so many great cable management solutions out there, though.
Simple cable ties, dedicated organizers.
It's worth investing in a system that works for you.
It makes your studio look more professional and function more smoothly.
Speaking of looking professional, have you ever heard of the concept of visual noise?
I think so. Is that like excessive visual stimuli in your environment?
That's it. Clutter, Bright colors, distracting patterns.
Things that compete for our attention.
They make it harder to concentrate.
So in the context of a studio setup,
It's about creating a space that's visually calm and uncluttered.
and I noticed that Omar's studio has a very neutral color palette.
Mostly whites and grays.
Neutral colors are great for creative spaces.
They tend to be calming and don't compete for attention.
But he strategically adds pops of warm light with his background lamp and hair light.
It adds visual interest without being overwhelming.
Okay, I have to ask you about plants.
You're a plant person too.
I love having plants in my workspace. I've heard they can actually boost creativity and productivity.
There's actually research to support that.
Really?
Studies have shown that being around plants can reduce stress, improve mood, even enhance cognitive function,
That makes so much sense. And they add a touch of life to a space.
especially in a studio environment that might otherwise feel quite sterile.
And let's not forget the air purifying benefits.
Right. Creating a healthy and stimulating environment is about more than just aesthetics
So we've covered a lot of ground here about the environment of a studio.
and how it can affect our creativity.
Omar has clearly put a lot of thought into creating a space that supports his work.
From the minimalist design to the thoughtful lighting choices,
Everything contributes to a sense of focus and inspiration.
it really highlights that our surroundings truly matter.
They can either inspire us or hold us back.
So as we continue our deep dive into Omar's setup,
Let's keep this in mind.
how can we optimize our own creative spaces to unlock our full potential?
That's a great question to ponder.
In part 3, we'll move beyond the physical environment.
And explore Omar's unique approach to video production itself.
Get ready for some inspiring insights.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Omar El-Takrori's YouTube studio.
I'm ready to wrap things up with some inspiring insights.
Me too. We've explored his gear, his studio environment, and now I want to focus on something really special.
What's that?
Omar's unique approach to video production itself.
Ah, that's where the magic really happens.
Exactly. It's one thing to have all the right tools, but it's another to know how to use them effectively.
To tell a story, connect with an audience.
That's what makes Omar such a standout creator, and one thing that immediately struck me about his style.
What was that?
His clarity and conciseness. He gets straight to the point.
It's a valuable skill. In today's world, we're bombarded with so much content.
I know, right? Being able to cut through the noise and deliver your message efficiently is key.
And Omar really respects his viewers' time. You can tell he's not trying to waste it.
Yeah. He doesn't use any fluff or filler, no jargon, or overly complicated explanation.
He just breaks things down in a way that anyone can understand.
And he's not just talking at the camera either.
He uses visuals really strategically.
To reinforce his points and keep viewers engaged.
Lots of B-roll footage, screen recordings, things like that.
It makes the learning process so much more enjoyable.
You're showing, not just telling.
And he even manages to sprinkle in just the right amount of humor.
It makes him feel so relatable.
He comes across as authentic and genuine, like a friend who's excited to share what they know.
And it never feels forced or salesy.
Which can be tough, especially when you're promoting products or services.
It's all about building that trust and connection with the audience.
So what can those of us who are just starting out with video learn from Omar's approach?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is to focus on clarity and conciseness.
Before you even hit record.
Ask yourself, what's the core message you want to convey?
And how can you deliver it in a way that's both informative and engaging?
It's easy to get caught up in the technical details or try to cram too much into one video.
But sometimes less is more.
And don't be afraid to experiment with different visual elements either.
Like text overlays, transitions, even music.
Those little touches can really elevate your videos.
That's where the fun comes in, finding your own creative voice and style.
And most importantly, be yourself. Let your personality shine through.
People connect with authenticity.
That's what will make your content stand out.
It's been so insightful to break down Omar's studio setup and creative process.
We've learned so much about smart gear choices, an inspiring environment, and compelling content.
And how those elements work together to create a successful YouTube channel.
But more importantly, we can apply these insights to our own creative journeys.
Whether you're a seasoned content creator or just starting out, I think the biggest takeaway is
It's not about having the fanciest gear or the biggest studio.
it's about passion, dedication, a willingness to learn and grow.
And having fun along the way.
When you're genuinely excited about what you're doing, it shows.
It resonates with your audience.
So remember what we've learned from Omar. Choose your tools wisely. Create a space that inspires you.
And always strive to tell your story in a way that connects with your audience.
Never stop experimenting and pushing your creative boundaries.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll be doing a deep dive into your studio setup.
That's the dream. But for now, dear listener, we encourage you to take what you've learned from this deep dive and apply it to your own work.
Start small, experiment, and most importantly, have fun.
Until next time, happy creating.